By the third morning, Thorne knew her schedule better than his own. He woke at 5:30 a.m. His alarm hadn't even gone off yet, his body already adjusting to some internal rhythm he didn't quite understand. The bedroom was dark, that particular pre-dawn darkness of January in Manhattan where the city hadn't quite committed to being awake yet. Outside his windows, the sky was more black than blue, streetlights still burning against the cold. Thorne lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, waiting. At exactly 5:30 a.m., he heard it. Through the wall, a pleasant electronic chime. Twice. Then silence. Violette's alarm. He shouldn't know this, shouldn't have this information cataloged in his brain like it meant something. But he did. 2 mornings of accidentally overhearing her wake up, and already it felt like routine. Like his body knew she was waking up on the other side of that wall and had decided they were synchronized now, whether he liked it or not. Thorne sat up, running both hands through his hair, trying to shake off the strange intimacy of knowing a stranger's alarm schedule. This was normal, he told himself. People in apartment buildings heard their neighbors. That's what happened when you lived in close proximity to other humans. Shared walls meant shared sounds. It didn't mean anything, except it felt like it meant something. Through the wall, footsteps, soft, barefoot padding across hardwood. A door opening, bathroom probably, water running, shower. Thorne swung his legs out of bed and stood, bare feet hitting cold hardwood that made him wince. He should get rugs, thick ones, the kind that absorbed sound and kept heat and made a place feel less like a showroom and more like a home. He padded to his own bathroom, the obscene one with rainfall shower and heated floors and a mirror that made him look either amazing or dead, depending on his current state of exhaustion. This morning, dead. His eyes were shadowed, his jaw needed shaving, and there was a tension in his shoulders from yesterday's job site that 8 hours of sleep hadn't quite erased. He turned on the shower, waited for the water to heat, and tried very hard not to think about the fact that Violette was doing the exact same thing 20 feet away. 2 people, 2 showers, 2 morning routines unfolding in parallel, separated by plaster and brick and the complete lack of awareness that they were moving through the same moments together. The water pressure was incredible. One of the few things about this expensive apartment that actually justified the rent. Thorne stood under the spray longer than necessary, letting heat work at the knots in his shoulders, trying to wash away the weird guilt that had settled over him like a film. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just existing in his apartment. If he could hear more than he should normally be able to, that wasn't his fault. Except he was listening for her. Actively, waiting for sounds, cataloging them. Building a picture of someone he'd never met based entirely on audio fragments and the strange intimacy of shared morning routines. That felt wrong. That felt like something he should stop doing. He dried off, got dressed. Different jeans today, same boots, a St. James electric polo that was slightly less stained than yesterday's. Professional enough for the residential job he had scheduled in the village. Some artist's loft needed new outlets and better lighting. Easy work, good money. Client who'd probably try to flirt with him based on the phone call they'd had. She'd laughed at every terrible joke he'd made and asked if he was single, which was not a question most clients asked their electricians. In the kitchen, Thorne approached the espresso machine with more confidence today. He'd read part of the manual last night, actually read it, not just skimmed, and now he understood the basics: grind beans, tamp, extract, steam milk if you want something fancy, which he didn't because he was still fundamentally a black coffee in a paper cup kind of guy, despite living in an apartment with an espresso machine worth more than his first car. The machine roared to life, all mechanical precision and Italian engineering, producing coffee that tasted like it had opinions about art and politics. He was standing at the counter, laptop open to check emails, when he heard it. Through the wall, a hairdryer, distant, muffled by walls and doors and the space between their lives, but audible. Thorne glanced at his watch. 5:47 a.m. She'd been in the shower for exactly 15 minutes. Why did he know that? Why was he keeping track? He forced himself to look at his laptop screen, at an email from Rafe about the next week's schedule. They had 3 new clients, all good money, all requiring him to be sharp and present and not distracted by the mysterious woman whose morning routine he'd accidentally memorized. The hairdryer shut off. 5:55 a.m. Then, music. Classical piano, melancholy and beautiful, bleeding through the wall like a secret. Thorne recognized it from yesterday, Chopin, though he still didn't know which piece specifically. His mother would have known. She'd loved classical music, had played it on Sunday mornings while making pancakes, had tried to instill some culture in her children despite their father's insistence that real men don't need fancy music. Their father had been wrong about a lot of things. Thorne closed his laptop and just listened. The music was sad, not devastatingly so, but there was a melancholy woven through it that felt intentional. Like whoever had written it understood something about beauty and loss and the space between the two. He wondered if Violette chose this music deliberately, if she needed something sad in the morning to match whatever she was feeling, or if it was just habit, background noise while she got ready for a job that apparently required her to be awake before 6 a.m. What kind of job was that? COO, he remembered from the fight 2 nights ago. She'd said she was COO of a billion-dollar corporation, which meant she was successful, powerful, the kind of woman who made decisions that affected thousands of people, and she started her day with Chopin and what sounded like carefully constructed armor. At 6 a.m., the music stopped. A different sound, coffee machine. Thorne heard it through the wall, the same aggressive gurgling as his own machine, which meant they probably had the same model. The previous tenants of both apartments had left them behind. Pre-war building, modern appliances, the strange marriage of old and new that defined Manhattan real estate. They were having coffee at the same time, separated by 6 inches of plaster, 2 strangers in identical morning routines who'd never spoken a word to each other. The thought made him feel less alone and more alone simultaneously. At 6:10 a.m., her phone rang. Thorne heard her answer, voice crisp and professional.
Good morning, Richard.
Richard. Not Daddy this time. Someone from work, probably.
Yes, I reviewed the Singapore numbers last night. We're looking at a shortfall of approximately 12%, but that's within acceptable margins given the market conditions.
A pause while she listened.
I understand Marcus disagrees. Marcus is welcome to present his own analysis to the board, but my recommendation stands. We hold on Singapore and focus expansion efforts on the Dubai property instead.
Another pause. Longer, her voice hardened slightly.
With all due respect, Richard, I'm COO. Marcus is VP of International Development. We don't have equal standing on this decision. If he has concerns, he can bring them to me directly instead of going to board members behind my back.
Silence while Richard responded.
Fine. Yes, I'll speak with him today. Thank you for the heads up.
She hung up. Thorne stood in his kitchen, coffee cup in hand, feeling like he'd just witnessed something he shouldn't have. A glimpse into her professional life. The way she had to navigate men who undermined her. The careful balance of authority and diplomacy required to do her job. She sounded exhausted. It was 6:12 a.m. and she already sounded exhausted. Through the wall, another call. She was making it this time, not receiving.
Marcus, it's Violette. We need to talk about Singapore.
Her voice was different on this call. Colder, more controlled. The kind of control that took effort.
I don't care if you think the analysis is flawed. I'm COO. These decisions go through me. If you have issues with my leadership, take them up with my father. But stop going around me to the board.
A pause.
No, this isn't about ego. This is about chain of command. You report to me, not the other way around.
Shorter pause.
Fine, my office, 9 a.m., don't be late.
She hung up. Silence. Then very quietly, almost too quiet to hear,
Asshole.
one word, said with such perfect distillation of frustration that Thorne almost laughed. She was human under all that corporate armor, got frustrated with coworkers, called them assholes in the privacy of her own apartment, just like everyone else who'd ever had a job and a boss and colleagues who made their lives difficult. At 6:15 a.m., the music started again. Different piece this time. Still Chopin, but faster, more energetic. Like she needed something to pump herself up before facing Marcus and Richard and whoever else was waiting to make her day difficult. Thorne rinsed his coffee cup, grabbed his work bag, and headed for the door. He had a job site in the village, needed to beat traffic. needed to focus on work instead of standing in his kitchen listening to his neighbor's morning routine like some kind of creep. He locked his apartment door and headed for the elevator. At exactly 6:15 and 30 seconds, apartment 4B's door opened. Thorne was maybe 10 feet away, hand reaching for the elevator call button. He froze. Violette stepped into the hallway, phone already to her ear, moving with the kind of purposeful stride that suggested she was perpetually 5 minutes late for something important. She was wearing a different suit today, charcoal gray instead of black, paired with a burgundy blouse that probably cost more than Thorne's monthly rent. Her hair was pulled back in the same severe bun as yesterday, diamond studs in her ears, black heels that added 3 inches to her already impressive height. She looked like someone who could fire you and not feel bad about it. She looked exhausted and beautiful and completely untouchable.
Don't care what the projections say, Marcus. The Dubai hotel needs at least 6 more months before we even consider a soft opening. I'm not going to rush the timeline just because you want to impress the board with aggressive expansion.
She pressed the elevator call button without looking up from her phone conversation, without looking at Thorne. He was standing right there, maybe 5 feet away, and she didn't even see him. The elevator dinged, doors opened. She stepped inside, still talking.
I don't care if Singapore is behind schedule. I care about doing things right. Quality over speed. That's always been our philosophy.
The doors started to close. Thorne caught them at the last second, stepped inside. Violette glanced up, barely, gave him the kind of polite, distant nod you give strangers in elevators, then went right back to her phone call.
Marcus, I'm getting in an elevator. I'll call you when I'm in the car.
She hung up. Silence descended. They stood in opposite corners of the elevator, him in his work clothes and scuffed boots, her in her designer suit and perfect posture, and rode down in complete silence. Thorne could smell her perfume, something expensive and subtle. Jasmine, maybe. He didn't know flowers, didn't know perfume. Just knew it smelled better than anything in his life had smelled in a long time. The elevator descended with mechanical precision, floor 3, floor 2, floor 1. Violette's phone buzzed. She looked at it, frowned, typed out a quick response. Thorne stared at the elevator doors and tried very hard not to look at her. This was the woman whose crying he'd heard through walls, whose fights with Julian had kept him awake, whose morning routine he'd memorized after 2 days, and she had no idea who he was. He was nobody. Just another person in an elevator, completely invisible. The elevator reached the lobby. Doors opened. Violette stepped out first, heels clicking on marble, phone already back to her ear.
Hi, yes, I'm heading to the office now. Can you have those reports on my desk by 8?
She walked toward the entrance without looking back. Thorne followed at a distance, watching her push through the brass and glass doors into the January cold, watching a black town car pull up to the curb like it had been waiting for her. She climbed in. The car pulled away, gone. Thorne stood in the lobby, work bag over his shoulder, and felt like he'd just experienced something significant that was actually completely ordinary. They'd shared an elevator. She hadn't even registered his existence.
Morning, Mr. St. James. Heading out early today?
The concierge, James, the young one from his first day, looked up from his newspaper with a friendly smile.
Job in the village.
Ah, well, have a good one. Supposed to be cold today. High of 32.
Thorne nodded, pushed through the same doors Violette had used 30 seconds earlier, and stepped into the January morning. It was cold, brutally so. The kind of cold that hit your lungs and made you regret every decision that had led you to living in the Northeast instead of somewhere sensible like California. His truck was in the underground garage. He descended the ramp, breath fogging in the air, and found his beat-up Ford F-150 looking distinctly out of place among the Mercedes and BMWs and Teslas that filled the other spaces. He climbed in, started the engine, let it warm up while he programmed the village address into his phone's GPS. His phone buzzed. Text from Margot.
How's the fancy new place? Meet any neighbors yet?
Thorne stared at the message for a long moment.
Not really, everyone keeps to themselves.
Which was technically true. He hadn't met anyone, hadn't had actual conversations, just heard them through walls and shared silent elevator rides.
Boring. I was hoping for drama. Rich people drama is the best drama.
Sorry to disappoint.
You're the worst. I'm living vicariously through you, and you're giving me nothing. Fine. Love you. Don't electrocute yourself today.
Love you too. Try not to let anyone die.
No promises. It's trauma season. Everyone's crashing.
He pocketed his phone, put the truck in gear, and headed out into the morning traffic. The village job took most of the day. The artist, Simone, mid-30s, exactly as flirtatious as he'd predicted, wanted track lighting in her studio, new outlets in her bedroom, and kept asking him questions about his personal life while he worked.
So you're single?
She asked while he was installing outlet covers, trying to focus on not stripping the screws.
Divorced.
Recently?
3 years ago.
Kids?
No.
Good. Kids complicate things.
Thorne didn't ask what things she was referring to, kept his head down, did his work. Declined her invitation to stay for a drink when he finished at 4:30 p.m.
You sure? I make a mean martini.
I'm sure. Early morning tomorrow.
She looked disappointed but handed him a check without complaint. Good money, easy work. Client who'd probably call him again when she needed more electrical work done, and maybe he'd say yes because money was money, or maybe he'd pass the job to one of his crew because there was something exhausting about being hit on while trying to work. He got home at 6:15 p.m., later than yesterday because village traffic was a nightmare and his truck's heater was barely functional and the cold was seeping into his bones. He unlocked his apartment, stepped inside, dropped his bag by the door, and stood there for a moment in the silence. Empty, quiet. Just him and the city lights filtering through windows that desperately needed curtains. He should eat something, shower, check emails, all the normal things people did when they got home from work. Instead, he walked to the bedroom, stood by the wall, listened. Through the wall, nothing. She wasn't home yet. Thorne stood there for another moment, feeling stupid and creepy and unable to make himself leave. At 6:47 p.m., he heard it. A door opening, not his, hers, heels clicking, slower than this morning. Tired, a bag dropping, heavy, leather, expensive. Then her voice.
Hi, Mom.
Thorne's hand was flat against the wall before he made the conscious decision to put it there.
No, I just got home. Long day.
Pause while she listened.
The board meeting went fine. Father was... Father.
Another pause. Longer.
Mom, I don't want to talk about Julian. We broke up. It's done.
Her voice was tired, patient in the way that suggested this was not the first time they'd had this conversation.
I know you liked him. Everyone liked him. That's the problem. He was better at being liked than he was at actually being a good partner.
Silence while her mother responded to that.
Can we please not do this tonight? I'm exhausted. I just want to take a shower and go to bed.
Pause.
I love you too. Tell Daddy I'll call him this weekend.
She hung up, footsteps moving away from the wall, toward the bathroom probably, water running, shower. Thorne pulled his hand away from the wall like it had burned him. This was wrong. This was invasive. He was standing in his bedroom with his hand on a wall listening to a woman shower, and that was absolutely, definitely, completely wrong. He forced himself to leave. Go to the kitchen, make dinner, leftover Thai food from last night, eaten standing at the window while Manhattan lit up like someone was flipping switches across the entire grid. He tried not to think about Violette in her shower, tried not to wonder if she was as tired as she'd sounded, tried not to care, failed on all counts. At 8 p.m., he was on his couch, laptop open, when he heard it. Through the wall, music. Not classical this time, jazz. Something with a saxophone, smooth and low, and the kind of music people played when they were winding down, letting the day bleed out of their shoulders, maybe pouring a glass of wine and standing at their windows watching the same city he was watching. Thorne closed his laptop, leaned his head back against the couch, and listened. On the other side of the wall, Violette had her good moment, and Thorne, who knew nothing and everything about her, felt absurdly happy that she was having it.
Thanks for listening, and please subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
And for early access and bonus episodes, become a Patreon supporter today.